the current energy situation for Namibia is as follows. First of all, as we are aware, Namibia imports about 60% of its power from the neighboring countries. And currently, what we produce ourselves as Namibia is only about 40%. Most of it coming from Ruacana power station, which, as you are aware, is also erratic depending on the water levels. We've been lucky this time, the water levels are quite nice. As much as we are aware, so Namibia imports from Eskom South Africa about 100 megawatts per the current agreement, which is currently running. Another 180 megawatts is being imported from Zambia. Then the Zimbabwe Power Company also supplying Namibia with about 80 megawatts. And then we get some small power in the range of 10 megawatts to 20 megawatts from Botswana Power Company. Well, when we look at the risks that the dependency of importing power pose to Namibia, there are quite several. First of all, the major risk that we have is that our power in Namibia is quite costly as compared to the neighboring countries. So the high cost of power can also lead into low growth for industry, because industry wants to produce more and they require power which is cheaper for their products to be reasonably priced. Because of the high power costs, the products and the industry is also high. The product prices are higher, and that is one of the challenges. Other than that, the importing of power is the dependency risk is that Eskom maintains the frequency for Namibia, meaning the power quality is all dependent on Eskom's power quality. If their quality is low and has got problems, then the Namibia's network is going to struggle and suffocate because of that dependency. The other factor is that there are costs involved. Just for example, in 2023, Namibia spent 774 million just to pay for the imported power, which is a huge risk. And then the other challenge is that we have poor economic development because of these cost implications and the dependency on imported power. The methods that we could use to reduce this reliance or dependency on power from importing from other countries. As you are aware, Namibia has got one of the best solar irradiance in Africa, and if not in the world. We've got over 3,000 sun hours per year, which means that the potential that Namibia has for solar power is huge, and we are not fully maximizing on that. So the best method for now to reduce the dependency will be to invest aggressively in solar PV power for the nation. Equally, if we look at the coastal areas, we've got a huge wind potential that we could harness, and we could utilize and put up wind farms that could equally generate enough power and cover for Namibia. At the moment, the peak power demand for Namibia is around 600 megawatts. And if we put up these systems, that whole 600 could be generated half from wind and half from solar PV. Of course, we will have to install and look at investments in solar or power energy storage systems, that is battery energy storage systems. This could help us to bring about the balance in terms of the baseload power. As we know, we cannot provide baseload power from renewable energies so far, especially the solar PV and the wind. But we could also invest as Namibia into exploring the hydro potentials that are there. Apart from Ruacana, we haven't utilized the Zambezi region where we have the enough water flow, and we could look at those potentials and provide solutions through hydropower systems that could give us baseload power, because baseload power is currently the critical issue as well. We cannot produce all the power from renewables, especially PV and wind, if we do not have a proper baseload power, but the hydro could provide that baseload power. Other solutions would be to improve our energy efficiency and stop the reliance on ESCOM maintaining our frequency. We can manage our own frequency and manage our frequency, which will in turn enhance the power quality of our system. The regional energy solutions that could be applied for the Southern African region are quite a number. First of all, we've got a network already that is interconnected. We call it the Southern African Power Pool. That power pool ensures that we can trade among the countries in the SADC region in terms of power and energy trading. And if we capitalize on that system and utilize each country's potential, for instance, Namibia can provide more PV power, whereas countries like the DRC, which has a huge hydropower potential, we could, as SADC, invest in that hydropower generation, produce more power from the hydropower, which is also renewable from DRC, and that power could be enough to sustain the whole region of Southern Africa and bring it to a much lower cost, because if you look at hydropower, you're not buying the resource, which is the water, and the investment in there is not so much, which you can generate for a long period of time, providing baseload power, which is required for our grid and our networks. And another thing is just for all these SADC countries to invest more in renewable energy systems and utilize the potential that we have, and we can use that to benefit each other. If we were more focused on solving this problem as a region, I think it would be much easier. We could bring down the cost of energy to a much lower cost, because we can produce most of it from hydropower, which the DRC can be our resource, a huge resource in terms of hydro potential, whereas Namibia can be a huge resource in terms of wind power as well as PV power, and so forth. And equally, the Southern African region, where South Africa is the shore, could also bring in more wind power potential and wind power farms from there. So the region has got many solutions. We only need to work together in terms of energy and solve the power region challenges that we have.